inventory management, everything from kind of where you keep your inventory all the way to using your inventory. Either should you be sending product FBM versus FBA. We've also talked about using inventory to grow. So using your inventory to help you get products listed and selling on other marketplaces. So we've been going over all of this over the month of March with a company called Shipica. They're based in Salt Lake City. They do inventory management. Their founders, I love their story. Basically, Shipica is every single tool that Ben and Trevor found that they needed as sellers. So every single tool that they've built was something that they found that was a necessity as sellers. We're not going to see them today, but we are going to hear them. We're not going to see them physically, but we are going to hear them. They're going to walk us through kind of inventory and how it works, and they're going to talk with us about Shipica, and then we'll be jumping to Q&A. For those of you that are joining us and may have to jump off to go do something else, just know that this will be recorded. We will send it out to everyone that registered, so don't worry about missing anything. And then if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that and kind of talking with you guys behind the scenes as Ben and Trevor are talking through everything. And when we get time for questions, we will go through and answer them. So thank you all for joining us. So happy to have you. Ben and Trevor, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Kate. So I think our kind of plan so far is just kind of, we wanted to kind of go through kind of high level, like what our kind of pitch to Amazon sellers has always been at Shipica, and then probably deep dive a little bit of probably what's probably a major concern for most sellers right now with FBA being closed, and we can kind of deep dive into that a little bit. So kind of high level, we've kind of shared our screen here of a blog post that we just republished. It's a blog post from a couple of years ago, but we've just republished it to kind of use this as the primer for the conversation we have today. It can be found at our website at shipica.com under our blog. But, you know, high level, what Shipica is really pushing is it's kind of we're pushing a different operating model that we feel like is you know, has a lot of benefits for Amazon sellers. I guess we could probably just start with just what's the current standard. You know, the current standard for most Amazon sellers is they're going to develop a product in China. They're going to source it, ship all inventory directly into Amazon FBA fulfillment centers, and then they're going to market the product exclusively through Amazon. A lot of our clients that come to us are operating on this model. You know, pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, this is Ben. With the caveat, sometimes people add in you know, their own sales channel of Shopify or something like that, and so they'll try to ship some of their items from Shopify, which, you know, is about as far as they're able to get with operating under this model. So obviously, there's a couple issues with this model, right? We all know that Amazon has really told the world that they don't want your excess inventory in the last little while. Everybody knows and is familiar with how they assess long-term storage fees. We know that those can be really expensive, particularly if you have small items, because they have the minimum amounts that you have to pay. It limits your ability to engage with other distribution channels. We have examples on here like eBay, Overstock.com, Groupon, Walmart, Target, Kohl's. There's a whole host of other places to sell your products, including your own website. And if all of your inventory is at FBA, even though Amazon does offer a multi-channel fulfillment option, you really can't engage with some of these marketplaces in the way that they want you to and comply with their standards by doing it through Amazon. And anybody who's also engaged on that level understands that Amazon can be extremely slow about fulfilling those orders. And so it's generally kind of a problem. Obviously, if you're sending your items to Amazon, you need some sort of prep. Obviously, sending it into Amazon is extremely expensive, and they have a limited variety of things that you can engage in. So, you know, if you need different types of prep activities, or you want to save money, then really just sending everything from China or from wherever you're producing into Amazon isn't necessarily a great solution for you. And we all know, and I think this last point is kind of where we're at in the world today, Not necessarily that Amazon has made mistakes on inventory receipts, but everybody knows that Amazon has shut down the ability to make new inbound FBA shipments into Amazon at the time we're all dealing with COVID-19 in the world. So a lot of people are getting close to running out of their inventory at FBA, and they're looking for other options. And so that's kind of what this solution, hopefully that you have a variety of other options that you can engage to help take some of the risk off of the table.
I think one of the other things you can even add in on the risk as well is that obviously, clearly, the world right now, everybody's feeling, the risk right now because Amazon's done something that's pretty unprecedented. But when everything's said and done, there's always been some risk in having Amazon everything exclusively at FBA. I mean, Ben and I have had experiences where we've shipped, pre-Christmas, pre-holiday inventory into FBA. It gets lost. Thank goodness we had a bunch of more inventory in our warehouse and we're able to kind of rework it. They found it in March. Sorry, no nothing. Just good luck. We have a ton of clients who have prep services where maybe your supplier in China or wherever you get your product makes a mistake and they're mislabeled or there's some sort of issue. Getting Amazon to work through that without some sort of intermediary can be very, very, very painful. So there's always the risk. And so kind of that leads us into kind of a new business model. And this is kind of what we suggest.
I just want to jump in real fast. One other thing that we're seeing now that really we haven't seen ever, it's just somewhat unprecedented, is I just tried to order something last night on my own off of Amazon, and it was in stock at Amazon, Prime eligible, but they told me it would not be delivered for a month. And I'm having some other clients, I'm not sure if this is widespread, but some of our clients are reporting the same thing, and they're saying that their sales are dropping off completely because Amazon's not able to fulfill even their Prime orders according to the delivery promise. I have no idea if this is a unique thing, but I'm having people reach out to me today saying that. And so this is obviously Amazon, unprecedented, but we're seeing that people are looking for other options to be able to fulfill their items.
I ordered something on Amazon the other day, and it was Prime eligible, and it still hasn't arrived. Yeah. And it was about a week ago. I think Amazon right now, again, unprecedented, but Amazon is making it a focus to get needed product out, and they're choosing to prioritize things. And for sellers, that can be a pretty big issue if you're caught as someone who's not viewed as something that's essential. So kind of what that leads us into is our proposed business model, and let's kind of just rehash the current standard. So the current standard is develop a product, source it, ship all inventory into Amazon fulfillment centers, and then market the product exclusively on Amazon. So what we kind of pitch to our clients, and this is something that's been really successful for us, is that we slightly adjust that business model and try and come up with something that's a little bit more optimized, and hopefully most sellers will save money, and it also takes a lot of the risk off the table. So if you look here, we've got develop a product. You're going to continue to do that just like you've always done it. You're going to source it, and you're going to ship and this is where things start to change. So instead of shipping directly to FBA, our model suggests that you ship your finished inventory to a warehouse or prep service provider. And then they store the bulk of your inventory, and you ship bi-weekly or monthly replenishments into Amazon from there. And you continue to market your products on Amazon, but you're also open to market your products on other additional sales channels. So we can kind of talk a little bit about what do you gain from changing that model and kind of shifting it a little bit. Advantages of the new model: most sellers will save money. This one really depends on your size, but in many cases, sellers will save money if they've got a pretty healthy business going with Amazon. You will save money on inventory fees. You'll save money on long-term storage fees. Our warehousing fees are significantly cheaper, so there's opportunities to save money there. Additionally, you're going to gain access to prep services that are more realistically accessible
and priced.
So, I mean, things like retagging, things like bundling, kitting, things like that are things that we can promptly do and at affordable price, instead of just kind of hope that they get it done when they get it done, which if any of you have had inventory that gets stuck at an FBA fulfillment center and it needs to be re-tagged, I mean, it can be a pretty big nightmare. So the other thing that Amazon sellers gain a large amount of flexibility. So this really kind of talks about being able to engage other sales channels. Amazon is definitely the biggest sales channel that we're aware of out there, and kind of for most marketplace sellers, and it is the most important. But Walmart Marketplace has made a lot of inroads into Amazon's business, and they've become a reasonable seller for us. There's also a lot of things out there, like Groupon Goods is a really big sales channel for us. There's a lot of stuff out there, and for sellers who have a healthy business up and running on Amazon, you really can gain a lot more sales, and you can do a lot more business by adopting this model. And obviously you can't do that if you're trying to fulfill out of FBA. It's just not reasonable.
Right. One of the other things that we talk about with most of our clients is you can increase your inventory sell-through rates. We have some clients who we have a feature within our platform that we call it the inventory toggle, and we talked about this on one of the blogs the podcasts with Kate, and we are able to seamlessly switch and monitor your inventory when you run out of inventory at FBA, but yet we still have some at our warehouse. Then we can seamlessly switch that listing to an FBM listing, and we can handle the fulfillment of those items until you get the item back into Amazon. The goal, we should emphasize that the goal is to have 100% of your sales go through FBA because it's cheaper. There's the sales lift and all the associated benefits of FBA. However, we're finding that there are a lot of clients that in that time when they normally would potentially be down and out of stock, they are able to recapture some sales. Some of the clients, pretty much everybody benefits from this on one level or another. We have some people who up until this week have always had their items in stock at FBA and really never needed to utilize this. And suddenly they're starting to run out, and this safety net is starting to be a real big benefit to them. So they're clearly able to increase their turn, their sell through of their items. One of the clients probably that benefits the most from this probably manages about 12 to 15,000 SKUs with us. And anybody who manages a little bit larger inventory can understand that it's extremely difficult to predict and have the perfect amount of inventory on any given SKU when you have that big of an inventory. So particularly sellers with big inventories like that are able to really take advantage of this and increase their sell-through. Previous to engaging us, this client primarily just sent their inventory to Amazon, and there were huge times when they were out of stock and they would have to wait for inventory to arrive back at Amazon with all the transit times and the prep times and all that kind of thing. And as soon as we turned that on for them, I don't know exactly what their numbers are because I don't know their accounting details, but I would guess they're up at least 20 to 30% after having engaged with us.
Yeah, it really does translate to, there are a lot of benefits to this. It isn't for everyone, and that's probably a good place where we could start to take some questions and kind of dive into that a little bit. It isn't for all sellers. We're the first ones to admit that. And by engaging us, we can kind of assess your business and see if this is something that will help you. But given the times, I think we all understand that the risk that, when we used to talk to sellers, we wouldn't talk that much about the risk. We'd talk more about just, what if they lose your inventory? What if they take a little while longer to get it into the facility? What if they, if something's not right, you need to get it fixed? That's time, right? And now it's like we've got people banging on our door. How quick can you get me up and running? So it's definitely kind of an interesting time.
So I think we'll start there. And we did talk about this on last week's episode, but how quickly can you guys get someone up and running? Is it feasible to jump in and start going and you can get inventory and orders in before you run out of inventory in FBA by April 5th? That's next week. But how realistic is something like that?
Yeah, so a lot of it depends. Obviously, the more SKUs you manage, the bigger the breadth of your offering, it's going to be a little bit more complex. Also, depending on the level of, detail of how you want to digest the data, what kind of reporting you want back, then it gets more and more mixed. But generally, it's very easy to onboard a client. If you go to our website, there's a customer registration page, and you can we can get you set up as a customer, get you a customer number, and then we give you the information for how to give us some of the minimal Amazon Seller Central permissions that we need. And then at that point, it's kind of a matter of understanding how we need you to send us your items. And then it's transit time, right? So
The
obviously,
longest thing is the transit time in most cases.
yeah, the reality is we can make it through those steps within just a few minutes. But if you need to send us something from Massachusetts and we're in Utah, transit time is going to be a minute. So we'd be waiting on that.
Okay, I'm trying to pull up. Maybe you guys can pull it up. Just pull up your homepage and throw it on the screen share, just so people can see it.
Yeah.
Next question. This is from Stacy. She wants to know please let us know what are the cheapest ways to ship. Which companies are integrated into Amazon with the best rates for fulfilled by merchant? So if you do go fulfilled by merchant, what's the cheapest way to do it?
So that's kind of a difficult question. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on what shipping speed you want. It depends on what the profile of your item is, and it depends on where in the country it's going. That said, we tend to handle mostly small parcels. They tend to be 5 pounds and under. And it generally works out that DHL e-commerce is the cheapest, most economical way to send things. And it's not a 2-day shipment. One thing that people should really get used to is that when they see what postage costs, when they start to become more familiar with an FBM model, they realize how good of a deal FBA is because of how cheap the shipping is that Amazon passes along to you and their fulfillment fees. But we, obviously if you're doing FBM, we're not talking about seller fulfilled prime. We're talking about just a fulfillment order. And, those shipments are anywhere from 3 to 7 days across the country. It complies with Amazon's shipping expectations. And, the prices for anything under £1, then the prices are pretty comparable. The shipping prices are pretty comparable to Amazon's fulfillment fees. For anything you start getting over £1, 1 pound, 2 pound, everything's billed in 1 pound increments. And it starts to get expensive a little bit quick.
For most of our clients, it really needs to be important. It's important that everybody understand we're not saying with Amazon that we would prefer to ship FBM versus FBA. The goal would be that you always have inventory at FBA, that you always fulfill your orders from FBA, but you keep as little inventory at FBA as possible so your storage rates are down. In practice, that's really hard to do, and in practice, people do run out of inventory at FBA. And the FBM model that we run is a safety net. It's when I run out of FBA, when I run out of inventory at FBA, I'm going to default back down to FBM, and we're going to set up the policies of my FBM, not necessarily to compete with Prime, not necessarily any of that. It literally is, and you'll generally charge money. Most of our clients will charge. They'll go from free shipping if it's at FBA to we're going to charge you $2 or $3 to make this shipment, because it's going to cost us more money. The goal for most of our clients that we suggest is get it so that FBA and FBM, regardless of which channel it goes by, it's the same net profit to you. Even though your expenses are higher at FBM, then you don't really care if it toggles over. But at the same point, the goal is still to get everything through FBA, because your sales volumes will be higher under the Prime FBA model. And so that really is the goal. And for our clients, we give you guys a variety of products that help to ensure that and try to make sure that it's as good as possible. But anybody who's been in this business for a little while knows there's going to be times where you're going to make a mistake. You're going to have a sale that you weren't anticipating, and all of a sudden something spikes in your volumes, and you no longer have inventory at FBA. And the FBM toggle allows you to continue to sell and continue to have your business go, not have your listing fall off, and it continues to go, and we can immediately start to work to replenish that and get back on top of it.
Given earlier you guys talked about how shipments are just taking a lot longer to just get through distribution, even just to be sent from Amazon's warehouse. It's not necessarily the shipping part, it's the fulfillment part.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a little backlogged. Are you guys having any sort of customer service issues with your clients that you're working with? Obviously not the ones that you're doing FBM with, because you guys can kind of control that fulfillment a little bit better. But are you seeing frustration from customers? How are you handling that right now?
Well, ultimately, no. To answer, I mean, really short answer, we're not really seeing anything, because if it's an FBA shipment and it's behind, then all the customer service goes through FBA, right? And so I'm sure Amazon is getting inundated with requests about where is my item. That said, we are experiencing some slowdowns in delivery times across the nation for the items that we are shipping. The post office is just a little bit behind, and DHL is a little bit behind, and things are just taking just a little bit longer. So we're getting a little bit of an increase of people saying, "Hey, where's my stuff?"
We're seeing that as sellers. We're seeing
as
sellers,
as a seller, yeah,
because we have a lot of products we sell, and we are seeing customers being a little impatient with it. But
and then outside of that, it's kind of tough to speak to what our clients are seeing, because we actually don't handle their customer service. One of the value drivers on Amazon really is handling your own customer service, and at this point, we just don't have a great solution to offer a great service there.
Okay.
Yeah, it is interesting. Just kind of a little bit more on that. I mean, what people need to understand is that what's happening at Amazon is that Amazon has fulfillment facilities and they have employees, and those employees are being told, if you start to show signs of being sick, do not come to work, because we don't want everybody else getting sick. So what's happening is they're running on skeleton crews trying to get things out. That's why delays are happening. The same goes for UPS, same goes for FedEx, same goes for USPS. We're pretty lucky that we haven't really had those problems in our warehouse yet, but given the times, I mean, there's no guarantee that we're gonna be able to perform perfect service. If everybody in our warehouse gets the virus, I mean, it's gonna be a problem, and that's what everybody's facing right now, right?
Will you guys, the form that people have to fill out, will you pull that up on a screen share so we can kind of look over that?
The best way to kind of engage us is we generally like to have people, before they fill out the client part of it, we generally like to have them fill out just a reach out. And what we'll generally do is we'll respond to that, and then we'll have a quick talk through about the business and what it is. And that seems to be the best way to do it.
All right. Will you pull up your homepage?
Yep.
On the screen share?
Yep. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Let me see if I can get my... Oh, I think it got turned off. Let's see. Is that better?
There we go.
Yeah, so this is our homepage here for our website, shipica.com. The best way, if people are interested in learning more about the model we're proposing, there's a reach out button here. It kind of is all throughout the site. You can learn more about the different services we provide, but it always culminates in reach out to us, and it gives you a quick form. It takes about 2 minutes to fill out. We follow up with a couple questions about your business, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we generally can pretty quickly ascertain whether we are going to be able to help you or not. There are definitely client profiles that, like if you're a really small seller, sometimes this won't be the best model for you, but we can help you ascertain that pretty quickly.
Okay.
Just to potentially allay anybody's concerns, we do not use this list for any kind of marketing or anything like that as well. This is you reach out to us. It's a way for you to contact us initially, and then we respond to you. And we understand that not everybody wants to be bombarded, so we don't use that for that at this point in time.
When it comes to kind of you guys have been selling on Amazon for a long time. So kind of walk me through when you guys realized the power of FBA, because for years you guys didn't do FBA. At what point was it you realized how important FBA was for getting your products? And then on the flip side, when did you kind of say, okay, well, we need to also build out this FBM toggle option too?
I think, like you said, we've been selling for a long time, and
10 years.
When we first started, FBA was this little side thing that nobody really cared about. Nobody really did anything about. And so as they continued to grow it, and as they started to make things, Prime became bigger, and they would continually engage us as a relatively sizable seller. and they would tell us, hey, you should really look at this. You should really look at this. And at some point you look at it and kind of go, man, those shipping rates and fulfillment rates are cheap. But we were so FBM focused that when we finally did make the switch, the toggle was kind of more of just a natural, that was the only way we were going to do it. Because we kind of always came from that perspective of FBM. And so, you know, as we started to engage FBA, we realized, oh, wow, you really do see a sales volume boost from Prime, and shipping rates are pretty dang good, and it's pretty good in a lot of ways. There's also some really bad things that come from FBA that, you know, having started in FBM, like we don't like we don't always appreciate the way Amazon handles our inventory. We don't always appreciate the things they accept as returns. We don't always appreciate the, you know, the customer service and the, you know, refund rates that they give. So, you know, we've kind of had to kind of learn how to do that, but there's just no question that FBA is the way you have to engage Amazon for the most part at this point. But when everything's said and done, having that FBM background, and that's where we started, it really made sense for us to always have that in the background to make sure that we did it. And it was pretty clear right when we started with FBA that, like, oh, this is hard to perfectly predict and make sure you have inventory ready to go. And so the FBM toggle was always great, because it was like, well, if we run out, worst case scenario, we just go back to the way we used to do it while we're replenishing.
Yeah, and if just taking that a little bit further, you know, we were facing the prospect at that time, and we do a lot of women's footwear. So, you know, any one style may have 30 colors and then 8 sizes in a color. So you have a couple hundred UPCs per parent listing that you're managing.
Complicated listings.
Yeah, it's super complicated. So if the concept is, hey, I want to send in a bunch of inventory to Amazon, I can't just suddenly mark that all FBA and then individually manage every SKU that runs out at FBA, flip it back to FBM. So it was really important from us from the very beginning. We needed an automated solution to be able to handle that. So from the very get-go, we built that. We knew that was an integral part of the model. So
we kind of knew we couldn't engage FBA without having that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and the other thing too with women's shoes, you've got these boxes that are quite sizable. And so you start taking a cubic footprint of what we were going to need to be having at FBA. And it was very clear that, like, it wasn't cheaper for us to just pack all of our warehouse up and send it to FBA. It wasn't even in the ballpark cheaper. And so for us, this model was clear right from the beginning. And as we've engaged clients, it's pretty clear we can do some audits on their, you know, we pull some of their reports and kind of show them how much they're really overpaying for warehousing fees, and also so a lot of people end up with long-term storage fees. And I mean, most clients are quite shocked at, like, how really expensive it really is.
Yeah.
So
we alluded to it a little bit before, but I think the cost difference from January through September on our warehouses is over 60%. We're over 60% cheaper than Amazon's. And in the months of October, November, December, I think we're like 300% cheaper or something. Everybody knows that their rates go through the roof during those months. And obviously add in the fact that we don't do any long-term storage fees, and it really changes the game in terms of that cost structure.
Ben, Trevor, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, would you mind just repeating that last thought? I think our internet, they are slowing down the internet right now. Have you seen that? So
no.
I think we hit a little internet hiccup. So if you don't mind, just kind of repeat that last thought.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I was just mentioning, Trevor had mentioned, the cost differences. And we had alluded to cost savings in earlier on in the webinar. And I was just giving a little bit more detail, fleshing that out, that, you know, during January through September, I believe our rates are at least 60% less than Amazon's rates for warehouse storage. And in the months of October, November, December, you know, I think our rates are closer to 300% cheaper than Amazon's.
I think that might even be conservative.
Yeah, everybody knows they have a surge in pricing October, November, December. And so it's, you know, it really makes sense to look at that and see what kind of money you can save.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm wondering, given right now you can't send in anything to FBA until April 5th, what's what's your philosophy, or not philosophy, what's your prediction at what's going to happen April 5th at FBA?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's a great question.
I think there's definitely a chance that they continue to not let things in. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ben?
If they're already a month behind on delivering regular items, I don't know. I mean, I think that's the same question about, hey, when are my kids going to go back to school, right?
Right. Never.
I hate to tell you, they might not go back to school.
Kate's a mom,
Yeah.
so that's particularly tough. But yeah, so I think, we're going to have to see what happens April 5th. I think there's a chance they extend it. There's a chance they say, hey, we need more time. If they don't, then I think what at a minimum we'll see is a mad dash for a lot of, Amazon has like on the level of millions of sellers, right? Like it's not a small amount. So every single one of them want to send something to Amazon. We're going to see a mad dash like unto the fourth quarter, trying to get everything into Amazon, if not worse. So I would imagine receipt times are going to take a little while, and that whole process is just going to be slow.
I think that some all that. I mean, we own multiple businesses, and we kind of have some unique perspective into like what's going on with Amazon. And the bottom line is, I can tell you that Amazon sales are doing really well right now, and they're very, 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 very busy from a delivery perspective. They're trying to get things done, and they don't have enough bandwidth to get it all done. And we know as a fact that, with nobody sending stuff in, like Ben alluded to, I don't think there's any question that even if on the date they say, okay, we're going back to the business as usual, there's no question that what's going to happen is people are going to frantically start sending stuff in there. And if there's any sort of indication of like what that's going to be, is I think it's going to be delays. I think we will probably counsel our clients not to do that right away. I think our clients will, for most of them, will probably say, let's continue to rely on FBM to some degree, and we'll send in a small amount of inventory and let's see how quick it gets in. And once we're comfortable that things are back to normal, then we'll kind of start engaging normally. But
it's going to be a little bit of a opposite of toilet paper hoarding situation, right? Where if everybody sends everything they have, then
it's just going to get backed up and
it's going to be worse. So, and if you empty out all of your stock you have in stock with us, then you eliminate your ability to do FBM in the meantime. So we're going to counsel people to say, look, we'll ship whatever you want, but we would suggest just do a little piecemeal approach.
The other thing too is, what do you think, Kate? Do you think that the warehouse employees are going to be feeling comfortable to come back to work by April 5th? Because I don't.
No.
Yeah. So,
because and
down to it, that's the issue, is that the employees that are already hired aren't coming to work at the rate they normally would in a normal circumstance. Amazon's desperately trying to hire as many employees as they can, but when everything's said and done, fulfillment's still going to, I don't think it's going to get resolved personally, regardless of what they decide their next policy is going to be.
Well, and even if those workers are ready, wanting to come back, they might have a totally different problem with childcare. Exactly. You guys are based in Salt Lake. I am also based in Salt Lake. We should have done this together in person, hindsight. Yeah. But the fact is, there's no great childcare. We in the state of Utah have no school until May 1st. So that means at any moment, my kids could come running through the office door, and this could be, you suddenly see me go into mom mode, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm just one person. That's millions of people across the country right now. And a lot of them have jobs that, even if their jobs are available, they have no place to put their kids. But this is also like a twofold issue. You guys also provide, at least the way I see it, another solution. Supply chain. We had supply chain disruptions earlier this year because of Chinese New Year, and then COVID-19 kind of extended that. But if you can plan in advance and have a bunch of inventory sitting in warehouses in the US, and you have a supply chain disruptor like that, because stuff like that will happen, like how much better do you feel knowing, oh, I just need to call up my people at Shipica and say, hey, you're not getting any inventory for a while, or hey, we're heading into Christmas and I'm going to send you a bunch of extra inventory just in case something happens and my supplier doesn't come back after the new year. Whatever it is, it's a way to problem solve any sort of supply chain issues while you try to find a new manufacturer or while your manufacturer closed. But it's also, I don't think we could have predicted actually this situation. You and I, the three of us, we've been talking for a couple months about this. I don't think we could have predicted that Amazon was going to shut down FBA shipments sending an FBA inventory except for essential items. There's no way we could have predicted that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So. I mean, I think I think when everything's said and done, I mean, Ben and I, above all people, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. As long as inventory isn't a risk for you, which if you say it's never a risk, I don't believe you. You have to find this razor's edge, right? Of like, how much can I afford to like, if your inventory is perfectly liquid, then you should have as much inventory as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And we all know that no inventory is perfectly liquid, or there isn't risk in having inventory instead of cash, right? And so you kind of have to find this balance between how much inventory do I want to have and how much do I want, what's my reorder time and things like that. But when everything's said and done, there is an element where in some risk factors can be mitigated by excess inventory. And the other thing that I think can also help too is for a lot of sellers that are just engaged on Amazon, one of the other factors that can really help to kind of spread out the risk of your business is by engaging other channels and finding other channels and other ways of doing business. If you're a seller who's doing 80-90% of your business on Amazon, you should be kind of a little nervous at night. Like, what happens if? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and I know Ben and I have worked, and it's hard. Like, I'm the first one to say it's hard, but Ben and I have worked really hard to spread that out as much as we possibly can. And the realistic fact is that the traditional model that we talked about of just source, send to FBA, sell on Amazon, there's a lot of risk in that model. I mean, we're obviously seeing some issues with, that were unprecedented that we couldn't predict it, but the fact that like your seller account gets closed because Amazon's crazy, how many people has that happened to? It's happened to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost a week during was it Christmas when that happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we lost a week right in the middle of holiday due to that 1 year. And you're sitting there going, oh my gosh. And it was totally they're just lunatics, I mean, they're crazy. But the bottom line is I mean, I would counsel any sellers as you start to gain steam on Amazon, direct sales models are really important and other channels are really important. And you can't do that through FBA alone.
Yeah. Backtracking just a hair on what Trevor said. We were talking about, if one of the considerations for you limiting your inventory is the fact that you don't want to send all of that inventory to Amazon because it might be too much, and it's going to start to incur LTSF. If that is part of the equation for you, then great. That probably means you're in a decent cash position and you can probably purchase the inventory or the inventory is not too much of a risk for you. Those situations, particularly if you're finding that that's part of your evaluation, you really should take advantage of this model just because you can take that completely off the table. So
yeah, if you've never been charged LTSF, you really should be considering this because one month you get charged with LTSF. It's pretty jarring if anybody's who's experienced that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty amazing. I really kind of jumped into this in 2013, and it is not the same Amazon. No. But I could go off on that road for a while. So I'm going to jump into questions. So we have a question from Hannah. She is wondering, I assume she's talking about your storage fees. She's wondering how much is the storage fee for 3-pound items?
So storage is not done by weight. Storage is done by volume. It's done by size. So cubic footprint. And really it's the same way as Amazon does it, but with this small caveat difference, which we probably don't need to discuss here. But bottom line, if you have a cube that's perfectly 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, and nobody has that product, but if you did, then that product takes up 1 cubic foot of space. and we bill at 53 cents per cubic foot per month. And we bill it on that way just so that you can easily compare it to Amazon. I think I can't remember exactly where they're at. I think in the 70 cents per cubic foot or somewhere in that nature. That way, a lot of other fulfillment centers will store it based on a pallet rate. And it's kind of a guesswork. Do I have a half pallet, a full pallet, 3/4 of a pallet? We bill you based on exactly what you have in stock. If you have one item, you get billed for that one item. And the way that's done is it's billed out on a nightly basis. A snapshot is taken at a particular point in time at night, and whatever your snapshot of your inventory storage for that day is what you got billed on that daily rate.
Amazon got that right. The way they bill you for your inventory is absolutely the best way and it's the way any third-party logistics person should do it, in my opinion. The whole point of the model is like, look, you don't have to take on a lease. You don't have to take on the big expenses and take the risk. Just pay for what you use. It's an on-demand service. Amazon offers that to you at a pretty high rate. We offer that to you at a lower rate. That's what it really comes down to, with no long-term storage fees.
Yep. All right, next question comes from Anna, and she is wondering, if this blocked FBA continues, how can I keep my sales? Great question.
If this continues, what was it?
If this block to FBA. So I assume the lack of being able to send in items.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you really need that safety net of an ability to engage Amazon through FBM, right? If you can't get product into FBA, and FBA is the only way that you have to fulfill orders, you're going to have problems. And I suspect that it's not going to get easier. Even if April 5th, it's April 5th, right? If that's the day that they say, okay, we're going to open it back up, like we've alluded to, you're still going to have problems for months, I would say. And so when everything's said and done, this model really enables you to continue to sell, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not prime, even, we can talk through the different options with clients, and we can offer them a lot of different things. But we generally counsel our clients, just have that alternative, that safety net. And so if you're not able to go into FBA, you really should have another option and a way to continue to engage Amazon's business.
Yeah, and if you sell one item, and you sell 2 items a day, that's probably something you can handle.
Yeah.
Amazon has an easy way to buy shipping on their platform, and then you could go to the post office and get a decent amount of supplies, and you could package up your item if you have it in your garage, and you could send it out. That's very feasible. Obviously, it gets more complicated. The more sales you have, the more items you have, the more variety of where you're sending it and shipping services that you're starting to offer. So,
yeah, if you're shipping, let's say on an average day you sell 200 items, okay, and you're used to FBA doing all of that. Well, what's happening right now is your volume is probably slowly going down for a variety of reasons, and you're running out of inventory. And at some point, you're not going to be able to do anything. But at the same point, you probably can't go and just start shipping 200 items a day via FBM easily, where someone like us who has a scaled warehouse and operations facility, that's like no sweat to get that out, no problem. And so it acts as that safety net for you.
Okay. Next question comes from Ahmed. He is wondering, how is Walmart as a selling platform for e-commerce sellers? Is it as popular as eBay and Amazon?
Clearly not as popular as Amazon. And I would say it's roughly on par with eBay.
Yeah.
Both eBay and Walmart are great places. I mean, certain sellers don't necessarily want to engage either or both of those just because of potentially branding issues.
People need to get over that with Walmart, though.
Yeah, Walmart really has built itself. And if it were called something other than Walmart.com, it would be like unto an Amazon. Their platform is very similar. It's a marketplace where you can control the price. They charge a flat commission fee.
It's basically a carbon copy of Amazon at this point, even to the point where some of their business reports, like their reconciliation statements and stuff, are almost like identical. So when everything's said and done, I mean, are you going to do that much volume on Walmart by comparison to Amazon? No. Is that changing? I don't know. It's meaningful. I mean, it can help to offset a little bit. eBay is probably similar to Walmart. I would say Walmart's probably a little bit better for us. The problem with eBay's a real pain in the butt to deal with. I mean, their whole model was built on auction, right? It was the whole thing was auction, and they have had such a hard time of kind of engaging the market in a more normal listing kind of Amazon way. And so they've kind of just become the secondhand garage kind of place. I think a lot of people sell used products on eBay more than they do new. But I mean, if you do a good job of your listings on eBay, you can do a decent business there. But I would say Walmart's probably more important in my mind. But
that said, both of those, there are very easy ways to engage
Yeah.
them. One of the ways that we tell people to engage them in a very cheap way
Shopify.
is to get a Shopify store. I think you can get one for $20 a month. They have a free eBay integration, so all of your items that are built into your catalog in Shopify can just be seamlessly published over to eBay, and you can be uptaking orders from eBay, your own website, and then there's also some Walmart plugins that you can get that will do the same thing. So if people start to think there's a technological barrier to that,
That's a pretty good way to
really,
deal with it.
yeah, a lot of that's gone. A lot of it's extremely easy. You can get listings up and running really quickly, and you can engage both of those places.
And then
Okay.
someone like us, like a third-party logistics partner, will automatically integrate into your Shopify store, and we'll just fulfill those orders. And it's all seamless. It's all easy.
All right, next question comes from Walter. Since Amazon is focusing on essential items and FBA is being delayed, even though I have FBA inventory, should one toggle to FBM?
So that's typically I would say no, right? Amazon has never in their history not been able to keep up with an order, and they get it out in 2 days. And in many instances now they're doing overnight shipping. But that experience that I mentioned earlier in the webinar, when I said this book I wanted to buy was going to be a month out, and Trevor anecdotally said, I bought something last week and it still hasn't shown up. And I'm getting clients who are starting to reach out and say, Amazon's getting jammed up. I think we're starting to get to the point to where you might say
You
yes
want
to
to ask
that,
yourself that.
because our fulfillment service probably will deliver it faster than Amazon. And we don't have detailed information as to why that's happening, and what the causes are. So it could resolve itself and it could get worse. We don't fully know.
I would even say, like, honestly, like, I mean, this is kind of a little off topic, but we've had the experience where with women's shoes, returns are such a huge issue with high heels that we've kind of been wondering lately whether we want to continue to engage FBA just because of how bad their customer service, how not centered on us it is. And we experience our return rates are double what they are if we do FBM. So there are weird instances out there where FBM can be smarter. I mean, I wouldn't want to counsel anybody to do that for sure, but it is interesting.
I think it depends a lot on the item you sell. If you are truly like somebody who came up with a niche product, maybe you have some intellectual property and you're kind of the only person out there with it, you're not really competing necessarily against anybody. So the FBM thing the FBA, prime eligible doesn't really matter, because your customers will probably buy it anyway.
Yeah.
I think it just depends. There's a lot of ways to look at that and answer.
Everybody's so different. Yeah.
Interesting. Going back to Walmart, I just had a thought. I mentioned this to you guys last week when we were recording. I will be very interested to see numbers 2-3 months from now, as we kind of have led up to this panic over the last few weeks and this massive need to aggregate resources. I will be very interested, and as more Americans are stuck in their homes, to see what the numbers are from Amazon, but also from Walmart, and to see if this gives Walmart's e-commerce platform a bigger lift than it's ever seen before.
Yeah, it definitely could. I think people, because of products not being available on Amazon, that's always been one of Amazon's benefits. Is it's just so easy to get in there, check out, be done. I think this is forcing people, because products aren't available. Well, Walmart might have it, so I go over there, and now I'm kind of in their ecosystem. I have an account. I would think that there would probably be a little bit of spillover with that as well.
Yeah.
Probably something. I don't know how measurable it'd be, but it'd be interesting.
Well, and I mean, I look at myself anecdotally as a shopper. I had to go to 4 stores to get like my week's worth of groceries last week because everything was,
Yeah.
everything was pretty sparse.
Yeah.
So I did end up walking through a Walmart. Again, Walmart's a great store. It's not my go-to for a grocery store. It's just,
Right.
it's just not. First of all, it's like proximity. It's not the closest thing to me. So I did go there, and walking through, I was like, oh, they have this here. Cool. I'll get, you just end up discovering more about stores that you didn't know. And so I assume that's going to happen with e-commerce shops too. I'm going to jump to a question from Anna again. A new question from her. She says, do you know if Amazon is charging less fees to help sellers in this sales crash for COVID-19?
Amazon be somewhat merciful? No.
I haven't heard anything about that.
I kind of keep expecting Amazon to show that they're going to be a little bit merciful, understanding certain things. Let me give you an example. Let's say your warehouse shuts down and you currently do FBM, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of orders you can't fulfill and you start having performance issues. I would kind of expect Amazon to have some sort of messages out there that say something to the effect of, we're going to work with you, we're working through all these issues together or something. But I think the messages I've seen is, make sure you're taken care of, guys, because performance standards are going to remain performance standards. So to answer your question, no, we haven't heard anything specifically. We don't know of anything specifically.
I wouldn't expect anything either.
I would not expect anything.
No.
Yeah, no, I agree. They'll be very understanding if you have coronavirus issues, but they are a business, and we aren't the end consumer. So
yeah. One caveat to that, Kate, I did actually see a posting that mentioned that Amazon, because they are not able to, they're sidelining removal orders right now. Because they can't get to removal orders, they have waived the long-term storage fees for, I believe, March and April. So on some level, I think the answer is yes. I just thought about that.
Yeah. Well, and there's some items that might not sell as well right now. For example, if there's any items that are for weddings, they might not be selling well right now because you can't really have a big, huge wedding like you normally would at this time. So there's probably enough inventory in Amazon. We talk about Amazon doing really well, and a lot of Amazon sellers doing really well. There's probably sellers out there that are really suffering because they have very specific items that, if you're big birthday party treat bags, not going to do as well right now.
Not all of our products are doing as well as they normally do, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, when I'm not sure if I can wear an Easter dress, why would I buy a pair of high heels?
Exactly.
There's not going to be any Easter mass. You don't need high heels. You don't need, if there's no church, no one's getting together.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
it's hard to really quantify like what this thing's really doing and how it's affecting stuff. But when you start to think about it, it is a little like, wow, this is disruptive. No question about that.
Yeah. All right. I'm giving a last call for questions, but kind of what's your biggest takeaway for people right now? What's the number one thing they need to know about their inventory and how to use it at this moment?
I think it's good to take a lesson from this COVID thing and understand that COVID is a major disruption, but there are all the time little disruptions that occur within the supply chain or within getting things to Amazon. There are a million different hiccups, and it's really smart to have some contingency plans and to have the ability to respond in some way. If you're somebody who's not necessarily hamstrung by super tight capital constraints or some other constraint that really prohibits you from keeping a little bit more inventory available here, kind of in the U.S., able to be responded to quickly, you should think about that. You should think about what the potentials are for your business. Kind
of piggybacking on that, I would even say, like, look, we we were pitching this business model to people before the virus issue, right? And so we don't want to be alarmist. We don't want to say, oh, you should run over and start working with us because of this. The realistic fact is for a lot of people, it made sense to do this before the virus happened. Yeah. And that's the reality of the situation is that for the right profile of Amazon sellers out there, this is what they should be doing anyway. Mm-hmm. And the ones who've done it preemptively and kind of seen the light up front are getting this really disproportionate advantage when it comes to COVID. But you shouldn't make this decision because of COVID, and we certainly wouldn't counsel you to make this decision in our analysis with you that this is something you should do because of this. You know, if you're a really small seller and you can grind out of your garage right now, that's what you should do. You know, but if you're a small, medium to medium or up seller, there's a chance that this model really will save you money, and it'll allow you to operate a business that's safer and it takes risk off the table, and it's a better model for you. If that's the case, then we should talk and we should try and figure out if we should bring you over, or if we could, if your profile isn't perfect for us, we might be able to introduce you to somebody who could help you. So, I mean, I think that's important to be said.
Yep.
All right, final question from Roy. I'm selling clothing and both FBM and FBA sales are down more than 50%. Now, how to keep up with the inventory performance? SKUs to restock and excess unit rate is increasing.
I would say, I mean, generally, there's not a good answer. No, no, I mean, there's definitely going to be some fallout. And generally, one of the benefits that comes from things like this is because you have to scramble and you have to start figuring things out. The answer is, if you're only selling on Amazon, I would be trying to figure out how am I going to get volume up even in this environment. So if you're not on Walmart, maybe it's time to get on Walmart. If you're not on eBay, maybe it's time to get on eBay. If you've never engaged someone like Groupon Goods or someone like that, Walmart and eBay are going to be incremental by comparison to Amazon. But someone like Groupon Goods, if you have the right product, they can be meaningfully good volume. So I think that if you're in that situation, your inventory is mounting up at FBA, you probably need to start considering doing some removals. It's hard to really answer that. You'd have to look at it and really understand it. But you either have to find a way to start increasing volumes, or you have to find a way to get realistically, even to engage other channels, you realistically do need to do the removals.
Yeah.
Fulfilling out of FBA just isn't, if the overstock.coms of the world find out that you're doing that, they're not going to be happy about it.
Let me just also chime in, Kate. He sells apparel, and did you say footwear, or did you just say apparel?
He just says clothing.
Okay, clothing. So yeah, with clothing, it's a little bit unique where you have sizes and colors. And so it's extremely common to stock out of, say,
one size,
black size large, right? Or purple size extra large or something like that.
But you still have others.
And you have other things. So part of the reason his sales could be down, and it's probably a little too early to blame this on COVID because, it just barely happened, right? But, he may start to experience issues where black size large is out. And that really, because of the PPC that comes in, people might be searching for a black size large in some sort of item that leads them to the listing, but then black size large is not available.
A disproportionate amount of people don't buy because the size isn't available.
Yeah, so that makes your PPC start to kind of go through the roof. You start paying a lot more for people that come into your listings, and then what they're actually looking for isn't there, unfortunately.
Because of size or color issues.
Yeah, and so that's where we're finding that our platform really, really has a disproportionate effect, because we can say, oh, you're only out of black size large. That is the only SKU that was manually or that was automatically switched to the FBM toggle. And because of that, all the connective tissue that keeps that SKU up and going is still kind of going. Does that make sense? So
yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. If anyone listening has more questions, feel free, go ahead and reach out, especially if you think that Shipica might be a great fit for you. We talked about in a previous episode, figuring out a supply chain contingency plan. Shipica might be a great contingency plan moving forward if you, to possibly avoid inventory management issues, but also it's just like they said, it's a good thing to do. It's good to have your products in a warehouse that's going to cost you less money, that you're going to be able to toggle over to FBM whenever you need to. For example, like they said, they had some inventory loss at a Christmas shopping season. So great time to switch over to FBM at that time too, while you're trying to figure out where that inventory went to. But you can find them at shipica.com. If you missed any part of the webinar, I will send an email out later on. But thank you so much for joining us. Ben and Trevor, thank you. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Kate.